What happens when queer courage meets a world that's not ready for it? In today's episode, we're diving into the untold journeys of 5 incredible gay athletes who didn't just compete. They broke barriers, changed the rules, and made history simply by showing up as themselves. These aren't just highlight reel moments. These are the stories that happened behind the podium, where silence turned into power, and being out was the real victory. And hey, if you love content like this, our channel membership is now open. Join Rainbow Spotlight and unlock exclusive bonus stories, early access, and insider polls you won't find anywhere else. It's our way of building something real with you. Quick question before we start. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country. We love seeing how far this queer community reaches. Let's begin. Matthew Mitcham, the diver who made a splash louder than gold. Before he became an Olympic icon, Matthew Mitcham was quietly unraveling. On the surface, he was everything Australia wanted in a champion: young, strong, sweet-smiling. Beneath it all, he was a closeted teenager battling depression, shame, and addiction, hiding behind the mask of a perfect athlete. For years, diving was his escape. The water didn't judge him. It didn't ask questions. It was the only place he could fall and feel free. But that freedom came at a cost. As he rose through the ranks, the pressure to conform grew louder. Coaches told him to toughen up. Sponsors looked the other way. And the unspoken rule remained: if you're gay, keep it quiet. But Matthew had never been good at faking things for long. In 2008, he broke that silence. Weeks before the Beijing Olympics, he came out publicly as gay, becoming one of the only out athletes competing at the Games and the only openly gay male gold medalist that year. And then, he did the impossible. On the final dive of the men's 10-meter platform, Matthew launched himself into the air and into history. His dive, a breathtaking, near-perfect performance, earned him the highest single dive score in Olympic history, beating out a team of Chinese divers on home turf. The stadium erupted, commentators scrambled, and while the world watched a gold medal, the queer community saw something deeper: visibility. A gay man hadn't just competed, he had won. But even in that glory, Matthew noticed the silence. The media barely mentioned his sexuality. Interviews focused on his form, his training, his rivals, but not the fact that he had just rewritten the rules for what a gay athlete could be. And the truth, it hurt. "I wasn't expecting to become a gay icon," he later said, "but I was hoping for something, a nod, a moment." Instead, Matthew quietly returned home to Australia, gold medal in hand, and no major endorsements, no brand deals, no national parade. Still, he didn't stop diving. Instead, he started talking. In the years that followed, Matthew used his platform to speak about mental health, queer erasure in sports, and the crushing pressure of perfection. He opened up about his struggles with addiction. He became a mental health advocate, a writer, a performer, a symbol, not just of athletic excellence, but of queer resilience. And through it all, he remained unapologetically himself. He didn't wait for the world to celebrate him. He built his own legacy. Because Matthew Mitcham didn't just win gold, he earned the right to be seen. And in doing so, he made space for every queer kid who needed proof that you could dive into your truth and come up shining. Drop a 1 if Matthew's story made you believe bravery isn't just about winning. It's about showing up anyway. It's about Simon Dunn, the bobsledder, who broke the ice and the silence. Simon Dunn never wanted to be a trailblazer. He just wanted to play rugby, lift weights, and compete. But as a young gay man growing up in conservative Australia, that simple desire collided head-on with an ugly truth: sports weren't built for boys like him. Locker rooms echoed with slurs, coaches avoided eye contact, and every time he stepped on the field, it felt like he was stepping into someone else's skin, one that had to be tougher, straighter, quieter. So for a while, he stopped trying. He quit sports altogether, thinking maybe queerness and athleticism were just two lines that were never meant to cross. But that fire didn't go out, It just smoldered until he found something unexpected: bobsledding. When Simon joined the Australian national bobsleigh team, he wasn't just chasing Olympic dreams, he was making history as the first openly gay man to represent his country in the sport. The press noticed. So did the public. And while some celebrated him, others mocked, questioned, or dismissed his place on the ice. But Simon didn't care. He'd already played this game before. Only this time he wasn't shrinking to fit in. He was standing up. His athletic career opened doors, but it also opened wounds. With visibility came commentary, and with commentary came hate. But Simon had found his voice, and he started using it boldly. Online, on camera, on stage, wherever he could, he spoke about queer inclusion in sports, about homophobia in masculinity, and about the mental health toll of living in a world that constantly asked him to tone it down. And then he did something even braver. He went back to rugby. Simon joined the Sydney Convicts, an all-gay rugby team, and competed in the Bingham Cup, an international tournament that proved toughness doesn't wear one look, one body, or one label. In every match, every tackle, every drop of sweat, he was rewriting what gay athletes could look like. Not in theory, but in motion. Beyond the field, Simon became a public figure in his own right. A model, a speaker, a symbol of queer athleticism without apology. He used social media not for self-promotion, but for visibility. And when the spotlight hit him, he reflected it. On to the kids watching, the ones still afraid to lace up their shoes, still pretending to be someone else just to play. In 2023, the world lost Simon too soon. His sudden passing was a shock, but his legacy remained loud. Because Simon Dunn didn't just change the narrative, he cracked it open. He showed that the strongest athletes aren't the ones who finish first. They're the ones who come back after being told they don't belong and still play their game. Drop a 1 if Simon's story reminded you that true strength is showing up as yourself even when the world tells you not to. Connor Mertens, the football player, who came out with his cleats still on. Connor Mertens didn't plan on making national news. He was a kicker at a small Christian college in Oregon, juggling classes, practice, and the quiet weight of pretending. For most people on campus, he was just Connor the athlete, friendly, hardworking, and focused on football. But under the surface, he was struggling with something much bigger than the playbook. Because Connor wasn't just hiding his identity from the world, he was hiding it from his teammates, his coaches, his faith community, and for a long time, himself. Growing up in a conservative part of Washington, Connor had been taught to compartmentalize. Football was one world, feelings were another. Being bisexual wasn't something you said out loud, especially not if you wore pads on weekends and bowed your head before games. But keeping quiet didn't make things easier. It made them unbearable, and eventually, he realized that silence wasn't protecting him. It was suffocating him. In 2014, everything changed. Connor penned a letter, raw, honest, trembling with fear and defiance, and came out as bisexual while still an active college football player. He was the first in U.S. history to do so at the NCAA level. The moment he hit publish, he knew there was no going back. He also knew he might lose everything: his scholarship, his teammates' respect, even his chance to play. But what happened next shocked him. Yes, there were critics. Yes, there were whispers in locker rooms and passive-aggressive comments. But there were also hugs, letters, emails from strangers, former athletes who had walked away from the game because they couldn't walk away from their truth. Young players who said, "Because of you, I can breathe." What made Connor's story so powerful wasn't just that he came out, it was how he did it. He didn't wait until he was done playing. He didn't wait until the cameras were gone. He did it in the thick of it, in cleats, in uniform, knowing exactly what the risks were. He didn't want to be a former athlete who used to be bisexual. He wanted to show that queerness and competition could coexist. After college, Connor didn't fade into the background. He became a vocal advocate for LGBTQ plus youth in sports. He spoke at schools, led workshops, and helped create policies that protected student athletes who felt like he once did, alone, confused, and scared to speak up. Today, Connor's name might not be in every record book, but his impact echoes far beyond the end zone. Because sometimes the bravest thing an athlete can do isn't making the game-winning kick. It's choosing to be real while the whole world is watching. Drop a one if you believe the most powerful plays in sports don't happen on the field. They happen when someone tells the truth. Tom Bosworth, the race walker who refused to walk alone. Tom Bosworth never set out to make headlines. He just wanted to walk, fast, focused, and free. But freedom for him wasn't just about crossing finish lines. It was about walking into a world that still struggled to accept who he truly was. Growing up in a conservative town in England, Tom learned early to stay quiet. He loved sports, but hated the way locker rooms made him shrink. He wasn't bullied outright, but the silence was worse. It told him everything he needed to know. Being gay and being an athlete didn't go together. So, like many others, he kept his head down and trained. As he rose through the ranks in British athletics, he became one of the top race walkers in the country. National records, international appearances, Olympic qualifications, all while carrying the weight of a secret. Then, in 2015, he let it go. In a quiet BBC interview, Tom came out publicly. No big campaign, no press stunt, just honesty. "I'm just me," he said, "and I'm gay." The response was instant. There was praise, yes, but also backlash. Online trolls, doubters, headlines that treated his truth like a spectacle. But Tom didn't hide. He walked forward, and then he did something unforgettable. At the 2016 Rio Olympics, in front of the world, Tom dropped to one knee and proposed to his boyfriend on the beach. The moment went viral. Not for drama, but for joy. Two men, one Olympic stage, zero shame. It was the kind of visibility he never had growing up, and now he was giving it to others. But Tom wasn't done. On the track, he kept breaking records, setting the British mark in the 5K, the 10K, and the mile. Off the track, he became one of the loudest voices for LGBTQ plus rights in UK sport. He pushed governing bodies to create safe spaces. He spoke about mental health, loneliness, and the quiet weight of representation. Because walking alone is hard, but walking and knowing others are watching, hoping, needing you to keep going, that's harder. Still, Tom never lost his stride. He stayed kind, he stayed grounded, and he stayed loud, not with anger, but with pride. Today, Tom Bosworth isn't just a record holder. He's a trailblazer with track spikes. A man who didn't just come out, he stepped up. For the next generation. For every kid who feared sports didn't have space for them. And he did it all with love leading the way. Drop a one if you believe the strongest steps are taken when you stop walking alone. Rainbow gold medal. G. Wallace, the trampoline star who bounced back with pride. Long before rainbow flags flew proudly in Olympic stadiums, G. Wallace was soaring above them. Literally. In the early 2000s, trampoline wasn't exactly a headline sport, but G, with his gravity-defying routines and fierce determination, changed that. At the 2000 Sydney Olympics, with his home crowd on edge, G flipped, twisted, and flew his way into the hearts of millions, earning a silver medal and becoming the first Australian to ever medal in the sport. But while the crowd roared for the athlete, G was still learning how to cheer for the person behind the performance. Growing up in Queensland, G had always known he was different. He was expressive, energetic, drawn to movement and music more than muddy boots and blokey bravado, but he also loved to win. And in the world of competitive sports, winning came with a price: invisibility. For years, G lived a double life, one of world-class routines and world-sized secrets. He trained in silence, celebrated in silence, and after the medal ceremony, returned to a hotel room where he couldn't share his joy with the person he loved. In 2005, G had had enough. He came out publicly as gay, becoming one of the very first Australian Olympic medalists to do so. The reaction was mixed. Some called him brave, others called him too much. But G didn't back down. Being visible, he said, isn't always comfortable, but it's necessary. And true to his word, G continued to push boundaries, not just in sport, but in life. Then, in 2012, G did something even more vulnerable. Inspired by a story from another openly gay athlete, G revealed he was living with HIV. He didn't need to share it. No one was demanding a press release, but he chose to anyway. Not out of shame, but out of strength. He wanted to challenge stigma, shatter fear, and show the world that even after the fall, you can rise again. Since then, G has become an advocate for HIV awareness, queer visibility in sports, and mental health resilience. He's spoken at schools, marched in pride parades, and trained the next generation of gymnasts, not just in form, but in fearlessness. Because G. Wallace didn't just win a medal, he won something rarer, the right to rewrite his story on his own terms. Today, he's remembered not just for the silver around his neck, but for the gold in his heart. The kind of courage that flips midair, lands hard, and still dares to get up smiling. Drop a 1 if you believe the greatest leaps in life don't happen on trampolines. They happen when we choose to be seen. 5 athletes, 5 different sports. But one thing in common, they all chose to show up in a world that told them to sit down. They didn't wait for the world to become ready. They made it ready. With every dive, every stride, every fall and rise, they broke more than records. They broke silence. And now, it's your turn to speak. Drop a number, 1 to 5, in the comments and tell us which story hit you the hardest, or which one made you feel a little less alone. And hey, if you believe in the power of stories like these, consider becoming a channel member. You'll get access to exclusive content, bonus spotlights, and help us keep LGBTQ+ stories alive and visible, right where they belong. Until next time, keep shining. Rainbow.